Hello everyone, it's Ann Huffman. I'm going to try again to record this. We're beginning to get some power surges here. But this is the tutorial for the September assignment, and it's due by the 25th of this month. And I'm just titling it, Fix It Before You Nix It. So in this assignment, I'm going to show you several things that I want you to repeat when you get ready to upload your assignment. Please upload this assignment. Put all of your screenshots, all of your images that I'm going to have you fix. Please put them all in one screenshot so we don't have to hunt all over the group for them. Again, it's due by September 25th. This should give everybody enough time to finish it, even those of us that are in the direct path of Irma. Certainly power will be up by then, so it needs to be fixed. You need to complete it at that time. I've been very, 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 very lenient with everybody in giving opportunities to make up different assignments, but I'm going to have to ask at this point that you really evaluate yourself and determine if you really have the time for this group, because if you do not complete this assignment, I am not going to give any extensions. I just sort of feel at this point that I'm being taken advantage of. The rules should be what the rule is, so it just may be that it's just not for you at this given time. I have to be fair to those who are going through similar circumstances that you are. So let's go ahead and get started with this. I'm going to just group these and move them out of the way. So we can get going. One of the main things that I want to be able to show you is that when you find images such as this and it has a background around it, there are certain things that you can do before you decide to nix this project. I'm going to say that I want Daisy, but I don't want this background, which is whatever desk or table she's on and the paper that she is writing on. So I'm just going to erase that background. Now, if you have a third-party software like Photoshop or Paint Shop, or I'm not even sure if Windows Paint will do this, but whatever you have, it might be easier for you to erase your background there, save the picture in whatever format you want, and then bring it in here and complete the conversion process. If you don't have one of those programs, or you just want to do everything in Inkscape, let me show you how that is done. But the eraser tool is something new to most of you because I've not taught anything on it, but I just want to show you that with the eraser tool, which is here, once you click on it, any of the tools you click on the left, you get additional options to tweak it or modify it on the status bar. So with an eraser, what we're used to is when we click and erase something, it goes away then and there. Well, with Inkscape, it colors it until you release the mouse, and when you release the mouse, then that area is erased. It's not going to erase an original image, but I just wanted to show you that it looks like it's coloring over it, but when you release the mouse, then of course that piece is gone. So let's go ahead and get started here. So my first step with this is I'm going to trace it. I can click remove background, but it's not going to because this background is attached to this image. But let's just look at preview here. Looks okay. I don't see any broken lines or anything in Daisy herself. So I'll just click OK. So now what I have is basically step one in the three-step process for converting it, but I don't want any of this. Now that I have this, I can click on the eraser tool, and wherever I put it and let go, it gets rid of it. I can make the eraser thicker, wider, fatter, whatever way you want to look at it, but I would say be very careful as you begin to get closer to the edges, close to what you want to keep. And I'll just release the mouse, and I probably can get something a little bit bigger going on here as well. Sometimes you think that you've erased a lot, but you may have left some remnants out. You're gonna, let me go ahead and close this, and you're gonna find that as well. So I might be able to get something there, but at this point I think that I need to reduce the size, the width of mine, and I'm gonna hold the control key down and zoom in. I didn't make the image larger, I just zoomed in closer so I can see exactly what I'm erasing. And depending on what you're working with, I think I'm at 12. You know, who's to say your number might go down as low as 2, 3, or 4. But what you're trying to do is just get rid of what you don't want in that picture, and you need to do this before you select break apart. And again, if you have another software that you can work with to do this, then do it. I think most of you assume that everything has to be done in Inkscape, and it doesn't. There are some images that you need to clean them up or make some modifications to it before you even bring it into Inkscape, and that would alleviate a lot of your headaches. So I'm just going to assume that this is as good as I need her to be. Obviously, if it's your image, you'll spend more time with it. So now I have gotten rid of that background that I didn't want. So I'm going to go to step 2 in the SVG conversion process, which is break apart. And so with breaking it apart, everything turned black, which is great. So now we are going to move on to step 3, the final step, before you save it as a SVG. So I like to click on what I call my magic tool, the edit path by nose, because then I can see, it shows me what the different parts are, so that I don't have to hunt and peck and try and find them. Middle. I think that's her hand there, maybe. Yes. Okay, so I and I know all that is her beak. Just got to get to the bottom half of it, and let's see. Go ahead and make that. Well, I don't know where the colors are. I like to use a dropper tool a lot, but you may want to use the color palette. Whatever you do, do not use the fill tool to color something in. That's not what that is for. I'm trying to get to the bottom half of her beak, and I think I might have it. If I don't, yeah, which I did. So now to get to these smaller pieces, I like to zoom in. So I'm just holding the control key down and moving the mouse wheel. And I need to go back to my little magic tool, as I call it. And I think that all of this are the areas around the band, maybe, of her sweater. Yes, I was right. Let's see, and I think that's some more. Nope, of her hair. Ah, clicked on the wrong thing there for sure. Okay. Oh, because I had the hold. I had the background piece selected as well. As you can see, that outer bounding box, and that's not what I want. I'm gonna get rid of that outer. So let me just go back to my little magic one and go there instead of trying to do a lot at one time. And I think that as well. So a lot of this is just little small pieces that I'm not going to worry so much um, in trying to color in, but you know that this is the final step of our conversion. The only other thing we're going to do is just group it all together. And it's always, always, always a good practice to make it an object to path. I know that makes a huge difference with Cricut machine owners, and that might help us silhouette machine owners as well, because sometimes if we don't say path object to path, some of the smaller pieces tend to float to the very bottom of the black background, and we think that we've lost them, but they're actually there. So this is the first thing here. So I'm going to be finding images that have a background similar to this, that I want you to remove that background and then finish the three-step process in it. So that's the first one. Is that eraser tool. The other one that I want you to get accustomed to is, I've shown you one way to, she might be too big. I've shown you one way how to close in the gaps using the Bezier tool. I want to show you another step with it. And let's get started with this one here. What the goal is with Rapunzel is, this is line art, obviously. So you would, if you selected this, I'm pretty sure you would not want to layer her colors or her dress, but this is the best example I could find to show you, just in case that is something that you wanted to do. But more importantly, it is to give you get you practicing how to work this new technique. And so let's go ahead and trace her. Of course, you know I never like to get rid of my original until I know that my copy is fine. And so at this point, if I trace her, I don't really know what is closed in here that will be completely black. I'm guessing all of it is probably going to remain white. But let's go to step 2 and see exactly what it does when I click break it into pieces. Okay, so we had 2 closed areas, and that's all that we had that is closed. Go ahead and click off of that. So what I want to show you on this particular one is, if we wanted to oh gosh, I forget what color her hair is, but I'm just going to say that her hair is yellow. If we wanted to have all of her hair to be yellow in this dress, this is how I have been telling you to do it. And that is zoom in, and we need to get the Bezier tool, and we're just going to click from one side to the other side and double click to fill it in. Now my stroke is very light, so I'm going to click on the properties for it so that I can click on stroke style, and it goes pixel points. It really doesn't matter. I'll leave it at that and just show you. What I want to do is to thicken this line up. And now I don't want it to get thicker than the original line. This is what I have told you all to do, and I've ended it at that point. But what happens is when you do get ready to cut it, or perhaps when you open it up in your cutting software, this is an extra little piece that's there, and we don't want that. What we want to do is to, while it's selected, go to path, stroke to path. Inkscape doesn't call a line like we do. It calls it a stroke. Anytime we draw a line, whether it's with the pencil or the Bezier tool, it considers it to be a stroke. So we need to convert that stroke to a path. And at that point, with it highlighted, hold your shift key down and try and find something that is going to give you that outer bounding box. And I found that if I find something that was black in the original, bring it a little closer over here, that's a good indication that it's probably going to be that outer bounding box. So let me go back to this line, holding the shift key down, and I'm trying to find something that's not it, that's going to give me the outer bounding box. And when I get it, here's what the objective is. I'll click on path and union, and this piece should be part of it now, no longer a separate little piece to move. So it's like you welded it together. So that, let me just move that over there out of the way. So what I'm going to be asking you to do is to close in all of these little gaps, and it should have held the memory on that, and I'm not sure why it did not, but if that's how it wants to play, okay. And we can do, let's click off of it. You can do several at a time, and I'm just trying to get to where her hair will close in. That one is really stubborn, okay, to get that far. And so what I'm looking for is to see where does this go and how far does it go to be able to color it in. So I'll just go ahead and do stroke to path. Let me try and find something that, oh, that wasn't what I wanted. I'm trying to find what this connects to so that I can go to the next step, which is path union. And let's see if that worked. Yes, yes it did, because this is not a single piece in it. But I thought I had it coming down enough to, I thought I had it to where it was adjoining this, and it isn't. So let's just see if I hold that down and click this part of it and I go path union, will that union it? Grab the wrong piece. And yes, it does. So I'm not going to go through all of these pieces in here because, like I said, I've already, just trying to get this to come down, I've already shown you all how to work the Bezier tool. So to verify that it's going to cut, now you go to the fill tool, and I'm just going to click in here and see these are all my closed areas. I think this one is closed. Yes, so I was able to get it. If I click here, it is not closed. There's an open gap, so I'm not going to get any color in there. But again, the objective behind it is to create your Bezier line or pencil, whichever your preference is, and while it's highlighted, to go to path, stroke to path, and then union it to whatever you connected it to. And that way you don't pick up all these extra extra pieces when you start to cut it out. And then, of course, when you finish with it, you would group it all together, which is what I'm going to do. And I would do, well, I'm going to finish this, but once you filled it all in with color, erased whatever you didn't need down here unless you connected that together. You may want to put some color in. Well, yes, I'm going to want you to put color in with address. Then you would do object to path. So I'm just going to bring this down here. Now close that out. For this one here, the next two is just kind of going over the fill tool a little more. One thing that I have told all of you from the very beginning is to avoid at all costs any raster images. And raster is when the color of one piece seamlessly flows into the other piece. It doesn't have like the outline here that's outlining the I don't know if that's open her shoulder or what, but this area has an outline around it. There are no lines around these colors. There are no lines around her lips. That's raster. Your vector is going to have some lines, the more distinct lines, but there are some images that if it's worth it to you to spend the extra time, I'm going to show you how you can fix that without nixing it. So let's go ahead and get started and trace that one. Of course, this is at the default threshold of 0.450, and we could leave it there. Of course, this piece that you see here, I think is this blue, but everything should be an outline, remember. So if we reduce the number to get rid of, and it's slow to catch up with me today. Okay, I was trying to get rid of that. Go back. Okay, so it looks like 19 maybe is it. So I'll click there, and I like for you to look at these as a blank canvas per se, and not worry so much about these colors once you understand the fill tool or the paint bucket tool. Now, obviously, we need to do something with this, even though over here it's open. But I would take my Bezier tool and try, see how far down I can click to fill that in. Go back to the preferences, and I'm just going to click to pixel and see what point. I'm sorry. See what I get here. Maybe it'll get thicker faster for me. Might not make a difference. No. Okay. And I'm trying to make it thick enough so that you don't really see those dotted lines that's in there. And maybe the computer hasn't caught up with me yet. I'll just stop there. And so what I want to do at this point, let me just click off of it so you can see. There's no line there or there or there. And so it looks like it was just dotted lines. I was trying to fill that part of it in. So I'm going to click over here, go to path, stroke to path, because I don't want this to be an extra path piece here. Hold the shift key down. I'm just going to click on her hair to get that outline. I'm just trying to find out what it's attached to. It may be attached to this bottom part of her chin. That's very important for you to know what it's attached to, because if you don't get what it's attached to, the union is not going to work and you'll become very frustrated. I'm going to assume that that works, and let's see if I'm right. And so now that worked. That worked. So, okay. So now I've got that part of it taken care of, and we get to what is the easy part now, which is clicking on the paint bucket, and we're basically going to copy from here and paste over here. But as soon as I clicked on this tool, it gives me options to be able to tweak or modify it. And you have to play up and down with this. The threshold says how much of this do you want to copy or fill? How far down? Do you only want half of it? Do you want the whole wave there, which I do? Grow shrink says how close to the edges do you want to go? And so let's just grab one and forget the color I have. Always pick a color opposite the color that's on the original so you can see just how much you're actually copying. And then we're going to just paste that there. And let's see. I just want to grab different colors. So now we'll get this one. And I may not have them positioned just right, but for the sake of time with the video, I just want to show you. So let's see. Make that one red. Where's my bucket? There it is. And this is what you have to do when you are working with raster images, is since there are no lines that the software can find to be able to trace this for you, you will have to do your own little copy paste thing with it. And I think, there we go. Oh, and our lips. And back here, that's what happens when you don't click the select in between, still had it highlighted. So when I selected a color down here on the palette, that's what happened. So with her lips, I'm going to go ahead and click, and I got a good shape of it, but if not, I would have held the control key down and zoomed in so I can get more. And of course, I didn't get it all because you can still see the blue outline around it. Let's see if I can halfway position it there. So let me just now start to make things mirror where they should be as far as color goes. Okay, so as you can tell, she looks very close to that, other than the fact I didn't spend time to try to get it lined up properly. Now, for some people, having this outline works for you. Others may want to put some color into it. And if it's open like this, you're not going to be able to, this is my trace, you're not going to be able to put color on something that is open. It has to be enclosed. And so in order to do that, again, we're back to the Bezier, and I think that's probably a good one there. Go back to this properties. I'm just trying to fill that in, and I would zoom in just to make sure that your lines are all the way across. Of course, that's not what I'm doing at this point. And so at now, well, let me go ahead and click on this one, and I do both of these at the same time. Path, stroke to path, because we want to union these. And now I think I clicked her hair to get the outside line there, so let's do union. And so now they are not their own little piece. So to know if it's going to cut properly, we come over here, and now we can fill in these little pieces in between, if that's the look that you want. So with this, it is all about the fill tool. When you click on it, you need to make adjustments as to how much of the area you want to color, how close to the edge you want to grow or shrink by. I would keep mine at pixels or points. If it shows anything else, just click on this little paintbrush and that resets it. Let me close this so I can give myself some more space. And now I would just highlight it. Now, before I do that, let me highlight it, and I want to show you something, and I think break apart is what I would have to do. Although I'm going to come right back again. I'm trying to get to those little lines that I added to see if I can just get right to it. And doesn't look like it with that, so let me try my little magic tool and see. Nope. So let's just see again. I should have done that beforehand, because what I wanted to show you is that you can, let me get over here, that put her all together. So I went too many steps, but once you fill this in, you did not have to union the line. If you like this open look, just make your Bezier line to close it up, and then do your fill tool to put your color in, and then just click on the Bezier line that you created and hit your delete key, and you would have color, but it would be open like this and not closed in. So just going to group it, path, object to path, and of course I would be sort of saving it at this time. And we'll be going through the same process here with Daisy. Some things over. I'm sure that your mat looks just like mine, filled with everything. With Daisy, I want to continue to show you all about that fill tool and how you tweak things to make it happen. Now, this looks at first glance as if it's a vector image because it has the lines outlining all of the different parts of her body or the image, but it actually is not. It's more of a raster. It looks like someone copied it and resaved it time and time again, and you find that out when you go to trace it. I'm going to reset it so it goes back to 45, which is what you would see. And obviously we know that's not going to work because the goal is to have it to be an outline so that we can fill in those colors. But as I reduce it, what begins to happen is I get down to the outline, but I have so much that I have to go in and add all these Bezier lines to just to try and fill it in. If that's something you want to do, fine. Well, now I've shown you exactly how to do it, but for me, that's just way too much work. But this is Daisy, and I love, love, love myself some Daisy, so I got to figure out what's plan B for me. And so here's plan B for me. You decide which one you want to do. I'm going to go back to 45 and try and reduce it down until I see what else is turning white, maybe. And it doesn't look like I'm getting much. So let me go back to my reset, and I say, you know what? I'm going to live with it just like they say at 45. I can't get anything to brighten up without losing the details. So I'm going to click OK. and this is going to be my daisy. And I really prefer to work like this a lot of times, because I look at this, just like with this lady here, as a blank canvas for me. This is my daisy, and so my step 2 with her is I need to break her apart. I doubt there's much I'm going to be able to break apart, but let's do it and see. Everything turned black, but not really, because there was a lot that was already black to begin with. So just keep that in mind. So what I'm going to do is hold the shift key down and try to click on something that was black, just so that I can click in here and see what else that I know that I can easily color in. As a matter of fact, that's pretty much her. And if I go too white, you'll miss seeing it. So I have all of these things here, and let me just click on combine just to kind of get that in perspective for me. That's just a Ann Huffman thing. And so now at this point, all I have to do is come over to this paint bucket, and that's the default. Let's see how far I get with it. I need a color other than that red, so I see how much of the red I'm working with. So I'm going to click on that, hold my shift key down, get this shoe, get her bangle, the inside of it. That necklace was too much, so I'm going to not worry about it at this time, and click on my select tool. Now I should be able to drag all of this over here, kind of line it up. You'll do better with your lineup than me. And click on red, and voila, I have it. So I get to keep my daisy and not stress. Now, when I get to her necklace, where I was having some issues at, I'm just going to zoom in, because that's going to be a small area for me to work with. But let's go back to the paint bucket. I'm going to, well, just so refresh our memory. Here. Got ahead of myself. I'm using a paint bucket on the original. See how that's kind of like skewed there, and that's not what we want. So what I'm going to do is reduce this number a little bit, so that I can get more of my detail in it. But as I did it, it's not as close to the line, because my gross shrink is sitting at 0. So I'm going to increase my gross shrink, which says how close to the edge do you want to go, and I'm getting closer to my edge on it. But I probably still have too much of it highlighted, because you don't see the line in between it. Plus, this is not a high resolution image. So I'm happy with where it is on the edge, but I want to get a little bit more and smaller pieces. And the reason all I'm doing is clicking now is because my number for the threshold went down, so it's giving me less of it at this point. So actually what I'm going to do, just delete that, is not try to do all of it at one time, because obviously that works, this part, oh, that worked that time, okay. And the point I was trying to make in doing that is to show you that you cannot always select everything like I did with her dress. Sometimes you have to do them one little area at a time. I think I grouped everything else together, so I'll go back here and say break it apart, and it's not going to be a problem in coloring anything else. So I'm not going to worry about her eyes, but this was just to show you that when it's something you really want, if you get over your fear and intimidation of the paint bucket tool and learn how to tweak these numbers, then you can pretty much have anything that you want, even these raster images that I have said time and time again, avoid them because they're so time consuming. So that's her Daisy. I'll group her object to path, and then of course at this point I would be saving her. So just kind of mix everything over here together. And I think the last thing here on this mini was just as a refresher for you on path difference to remove these little pieces in between here so that the t-shirt shows through it. Because if you trace it and you don't remove it, you're going to have to get out that X-Acto knife and manually cut those areas out, or it's going to look really weird that you have these two areas covered. The other thing I want to show you is when it comes to Mickey and Minnie, for some reason, this area around their hands, around the fingers, around the eyes, usually when you trace it, are going to leave a gap right in there. There's a gap, these little thinning areas. So once you spend 20 seconds and look at your image, it will save you from being blindsided when you trace it. And so let's just trace it and I'll show you what I mean. She's at the 45. We need to reduce it so that we get this dress and everything is an outline without much fuzz, and that looks good there. And so I told you about those areas. When we zoom in, you see it's open. So we'll need the Bezier tool. That area is open. We're going to need the Bezier tool in order to fill it. So when I go to step 2 on this, everything is going to turn black except for those gloves because they have a gap that's in them. So let's go to step 2 of the conversion process, and there we go. And so it doesn't matter whether you fix it before or after you do break apart, it is not going to turn these black. But the whole part of this step, step 3, is to fill it with color, because if it takes color, it is going to cut without any issues. So what you want to do first is to go to the Bezier tool, and you need to fill this in. And I'm on that already. I thought I picked point, but again, it doesn't always hold it. The only thing that I will say to you is that when you're using a Bezier tool, try to keep your line size similar to the line size of the other lines. You don't want it really thick and they're thin, or you don't want your line really thin and they're thick. So let me just do this other area here and close it as well so that I have it closed now. And so now I'll get to show you what I was talking about that I skipped on Daisy. We've closed these in, so now we just fill them in with some color. There we go. So it's filled in with some color. And so the point that I forgot to do with Daisy is I can come here and grab this line and move it out of the way. I don't want to get this positioned back right again, but I just wanted to show you that once you fill it, you can move that piece and delete it if you want. It may look a little weird because you're going to have that black background there, but of course, that's your preference with it. So let me just undo this and get it back there. And so now what I want to do is I need to find that line, because what I didn't do, and I'm sure that some of you are going to go through this as well. Let's see if I can find it with using this. Yes, okay. Is before I put the color in there, I should have gone stroke to path and clicked on, I need something black, her ear, trying to get that outer box there so I can do union. And then I wouldn't have to worry about that. But since I didn't do that, now with this one I get a change. Well, same thing here. So I'm just trying to find that little line in there. And there we go. Zoom in so I can zoom back out now. Sorry about all this zooming if it's making some of you dizzy. But stroke to path, find something that is black in the original over here, and you're going to get that outer bounding box. So I'll hold the shift key down because I'm going to click on her ear, and I have the outer bounding box. So path, union. And so now I have that, and I'm not going to color the rest of many, but what I am concerned with is this little area right in here, and I always give it some light, some loud color to call attention to myself that I need to fix this, because this color has nothing to do with many whatsoever, but I need to remove it. So there's two ways you can do it. I have taught you all how to do it the long way, and let me just give this some color so that maybe it'll make more sense to you. Okay, is that what path difference, you select the piece you want to get rid of, and you hold the shift key down and click on what it's attached to, which is the background, and go path difference, and it gets rid of it. It cuts it out. And so what I've taught you is that you do them one at a time. And the reason I taught you that is because you can click on both of them and select path combine, and with now they're all one piece. Let me get off my little magic tool so you can see. Now they're all one piece instead of two pieces, because you can only do this with you can only do difference with two pieces. So this is now combined and it becomes one piece. Hold the shift key down, find the outer bounding box, and do difference, and it does it at the same time. The reason I didn't show you all this in the beginning is because that little combine does not always work. Sometimes one of those pieces may have been attached to the bracelet, and so when I did combine, it would grab the bracelet in with it, and we don't want to get rid of the bracelet, only the inner pieces. So you can try combine first, but if you see that something wonky happens, then you need to go back to the way I originally taught you, which is to do one piece at a time to use the path difference on it. So let's see. I think that that is it, except one last thing to let's see, that I want to share with you is once we get past how to fix things, my next wish list for you all is to be able to show you how to make your own letters. Not a font, because a font is a collection of letters or images that you install to your system, and it's available in all of your software. But a letter is just like an individual image, and this was done so simple. I hope by now you all can look at these things and see how it's made. It's basically the letter A, and someone found some nice flourishes, and they put this flourish here on top of the A, and they did their path difference. And this one, they just placed it inside of it, selected it, and they went path union, or because they welded it in there. So that's something that I can't wait to be able to get going with you all. Like I said before, if don't attend the classes, they are optional, but you miss an opportunity to ask a lot of questions. With the impending hurricane, I don't know if I'm going to have electricity to be able to do that class tomorrow night or not, but what I've shown you now is exactly what I've gone over in the in the two classes that I did do. So there should not be any question whatsoever as to when the assignment is due. It is due by the 25th. I hope you all have enjoyed this. If you have questions on this, refer back to this tutorial, because again, I've gone over it step by step and I've put all the details in there. But feel free to post whatever your questions are, and I'll do my very best to get back to you with an answer. Good luck on this assignment. It's going to be a tough one, but I have confidence that you all are going to be able to show me just how good you are. Thank you.